I still remember that night drive in Maine, and even now, thinking about it makes my chest tighten a little. It was around 10 p.m., one of those quiet nights where the sky is dark but clear, and the road feels like it stretches forever. There weren't many cars out, maybe one every few miles. The air outside looked cold, and the headlights from my car cut through the darkness in a clean, narrow path. The trees on both sides of the road were tall and thick, so dense that nothing beyond the first row was visible. It felt like driving through a tunnel of black, everything outside the reach of my headlights just gone. I was in a small two-door Saab, the kind of car that feels fine in the daytime but suddenly feels way too tiny when you're alone on a rural highway with no one around. I had music low, not loud enough to distract me, just enough to make the silence less heavy. The road signs were spaced far apart and didn't say much, just distances and warnings about wildlife. I saw those deer crossing signs and thought nothing of them. Everyone sees those. Nobody expects anything to actually show up. The road curved slowly to the right, and my eyes were tired, but not enough to close. I just wanted to get where I was going and sleep. I remember looking at the clock on the dashboard and thinking I still had a long drive left. The night felt endless. Then, out of nowhere, my brain picked up movement ahead. It wasn't clear at first, just a shape. Something tall, way taller than anything that should be in the road. For a second, my mind tried to convince me it was a sign or a shadow or maybe my headlights hitting a tree weirdly. But as I got closer, the shape didn't move. And it wasn't a shadow. It was a moose, a massive moose, just standing there in the middle of the damn highway like it owned the place. I didn't just get scared. I felt a wave of cold rush through my spine and my whole body reacted before I could think. My hands tightened on the wheel and I swerved hard toward the breakdown lane. The scream just came out of me. Not planned, not forced, just pure shock. Something like a mix between fear and disbelief. I didn't even recognize my own voice. It wasn't just a scream. It was one of those messy, panic sounds that comes out when your body thinks you're seconds from dying. The moose didn't move. It didn't flinch. It didn't even twitch. It just stared, like a statue, like it had no reason to care that a car was flying toward it at 60 miles per hour. I drove halfway into the breakdown lane and halfway still on the pavement, trying to avoid hitting it. For a split second, I thought I was going to clip the back legs or graze its side, but somehow I didn't. The highway felt like it had shrunk down to a narrow strip, and that animal felt unbelievably huge. Its body towered above the hood of my car. If I had hit it, it wouldn't have been the moose that died. It would have been me crushed under its weight. Once I passed it, my heart didn't slow down. If anything, it sped up. My breathing was loud, too fast. My hands were shaking. I kept looking in the mirrors, trying to see if anyone behind me would hit it, trying to make sense of what I just saw. But there was no one else behind me, not a single pair of headlights. The road ahead looked normal again, but I couldn't shake the feeling of how wrong that moment felt. That highway was empty. There was no town nearby, no houses, no parked cars. Nothing that made sense. Just a giant moose in the dark, standing perfectly still, calm, like it was supposed to be there. I drove for a while before I even realized I wasn't breathing steadily. My body had gone into full alert mode, and even when my mind knew I was past the danger, my nerves didn't calm down. I kept expecting something else to appear in the road. Another moose, a deer, anything. The darkness felt deeper after that. The forest felt closer, like anything could be watching from the shadows. I didn't turn the music up. I didn't open the window. I just gripped the wheel tight and stayed focused on the white lines on the road, making sure to stay alert. Every mile felt longer than the last. My body stayed tense the whole way until I finally reached an exit and saw streetlights and buildings again. When I finally parked and shut the engine off, I sat there for a few seconds in complete silence. My heartbeat still felt heavy. I could still see the moose in my head, the size of it, the way it stood, the way it didn't react at all. It wasn't scared like deer usually are. It wasn't confused. It was calm, almost indifferent, and that part stuck with me. I knew moose were big, but I never understood just how big until that moment. Seeing one up close in the darkness, alone on a highway, changes something in you. It makes you realize how small you are, how fast things can go wrong, how sometimes nature doesn't care if you're in the way. I've driven that route many times since, and nothing like that has happened again. But every single time I pass that stretch of road, I slow down a little. I look farther ahead. I scan the edges of the forest for any sign of movement, not because I think I'll crash, but because now I know exactly how it feels to see something so massive and unpredictable standing where it shouldn't be. And I don't ever want to feel that again. That night taught me something simple but unforgettable. Out there in the dark, on empty roads surrounded by wilderness, you're not in control. You're just passing through a place where bigger things walk without fear. And sometimes, if you're unlucky, you meet one. I never liked driving at night. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the long stretch of empty highway that feels endless. Maybe it's the silence inside the car that feels too loud. Maybe it's that everything looks familiar but wrong. The same roads and same signs, but covered in darkness that hides just enough to make your brain feel uneasy. But working early shifts at the airport meant I didn't have a choice. I had to be there by 4 a.m., and the only way to make it on time was to leave when most people were either asleep or still drunk from the night before. That morning didn't feel much different at first. It was around 3 a.m., and the weather was clear. The air outside looked cold but calm, and the highway was wide open. No headlights behind me, none in front of me, and barely any passing from the opposite direction. Just empty road and that strange quiet feeling that makes the world feel paused. I was in the middle lane going about 70 miles an hour. It was one of those stretches of highway where the road looked endless, flat, clean pavement with dotted lines and tall streetlights spaced far apart. The glow they cast wasn't warm. It was pale and harsh, almost sterile. It reminded me of the kind of lighting used in hospitals. My eyes were tired. I had slept, but it never feels like enough when the alarm goes off that early. The hum of the engine and the low rumble of the tires made my eyelids feel heavier than they should. I rolled the window down for a second just to let cold air slap me awake. The air smelled like distant asphalt and winter. After a few miles, I noticed something strange. Up ahead, near the edge of the light from the next street lamp, I thought I saw something move. It was small at first, just a shape, something that didn't match the flat surface of the road. I blinked hard and leaned forward a little, trying to make sense of it. First, I thought it was a deer. That wouldn't be unusual. Deer wander onto highways all the time, especially late at night. But as I got closer, the shape wasn't shaped like a deer or an animal at all. Stood up straight, tall, and thin. Person. A woman. She was standing in the middle lane. The exact lane I was in. She wasn't walking. She wasn't trying to cross. She was just standing there and facing me. For a second, I couldn't move. My brain didn't accept what I was seeing. Nobody stands in the middle of a highway in the dark like that. There's no reason. There's nowhere to go. But she was there, arms slightly out, almost like she wanted me to see her. Then everything started happening too fast. As my headlights hit her fully, she moved. Not away, not to the side. She ran toward my car, full speed. Her arms were waving, her mouth open like she was yelling something. But I couldn't hear anything over the engine and the rush of panic in my chest. I reacted without thinking. My hands jerked the wheel hard to the left, almost too hard. For a split second, I thought the car would lose control and I would spin out, maybe crash into the barrier. But the tires gripped the pavement just enough. The car shifted sharply and I missed her by maybe a foot, maybe less. It felt like if I had blinked, everything would have ended differently. As I passed her, I caught a clear look at her face, and something in me froze in a way I still can't explain. She didn't look scared. She didn't look like someone desperate for help. She looked wild, wide eyes, dilated pupils, jaw clenched tight. Her face looked twisted with something chaotic. It didn't look like fear or panic. It looked like pure adrenaline or madness, like she had either been awake for days or high on something that broke the normal part of the human mind. My whole body tensed up. My heart was beating so hard I could feel it in my throat. I didn't slow down. I didn't pull over. I didn't look back in the mirror for several miles because I was afraid, actually afraid, of what I might see behind me. I kept driving, The empty silence that I used to hate suddenly felt like the safest thing in the world. My hands were shaking on the wheel. Every shadow looked like another person stepping into the road. Every flash of passing light from a sign made me jump. By the time I reached the parking lot by the airport employee entrance, my breathing still hadn't gone back to normal. I sat in my car for a minute, just sitting there with the engine off and my hands on the steering wheel. My fingers were stiff from how tight I had been holding it. My first thought was that I should go back, that I should check. Maybe she needed help. Maybe something happened. Maybe she didn't realize what she was doing. But the memory of her face pushed that thought away. There was nothing pleading or lost in her expression. It wasn't someone begging for help. It was someone acting on impulse, unpredictable impulse. I pulled out my phone and called 911. I explained everything, where it happened, what she looked like, what she did. The dispatcher said they would send someone to check the area. After that, I walked into work. The noise of the airport felt too bright and too normal after what happened. People rolling suitcases, coffee being poured, distant intercom announcements. It all felt disconnected from what I had just seen. The rest of the shift felt like a blur. My mind replayed that moment over and over. The way she stood still, the sudden sprint toward me, the way her arms waved like she was trying to stop me or maybe grab onto the car. When my shift finally ended and the sun was up, the world looked normal again. Traffic was busy. People were awake. Everything felt alive in a way it never does at 3 a.m. Before going home, I checked the news. Nothing. No accidents, no missing persons, no reports of anything strange. The next day, I checked again. Still nothing. The police never called me back. No one followed up. It was like she never existed. I thought about her for weeks. Not in a supernatural way. Not in a ghost story way. But in a real-world way, the kind that gets under your skin because it doesn't make sense. She was out there alone, in the dark, on a highway where no one should ever be standing. She ran at my car like she didn't care if she lived or died. I still drive to work, still take the same route, still pass the same stretch of highway. But now, every time I drive through that section, I grip the steering wheel tighter. My eyes scan the road harder. I stay in the far left lane no matter what. Nothing like that has happened again. But sometimes, when the night is especially dark and the highway feels too empty, I catch myself looking ahead into the distance, watching for movement, watching for a figure that doesn't belong there. Because now I know something I didn't know before. Not everything you meet on the road at night is lost. Some people are out there for reasons you will never understand. And sometimes the smartest thing you can do is keep driving. Night driving already puts me on edge. Something about dark highways and empty roads makes me feel like the world shrinks down into a tiny space. The inside of the car, the road directly in front of me, and nothing else. Everything beyond the headlights feels empty, yet somehow watched. I never liked that feeling, especially when I'm alone. It was a little after midnight when it happened. I had just finished a long shift and was exhausted. The kind of exhausted where everything feels heavy. Eyes, hands, thoughts. The road home wasn't long, but it stretched through a mostly quiet area. A few convenience stores, gas stations, and old strip malls sat along the road, but most of them were closed at that hour. There were no streetlights in some stretches, so the darkness felt thick. For a while, nothing happened. I was just driving, thinking about how good it was going to feel to finally get home. The road was mostly empty. Maybe one car way ahead and another behind me, but far enough that I barely paid attention. I had the radio low, the windows up, and my speed steady. After maybe 10 minutes, I noticed the car behind me getting closer. At first, I thought they were just speeding up to pass me, but they didn't. They just stayed right behind me, closer than people normally drive at night. I tried to ignore it at first. Maybe they were tired too. Maybe they weren't paying attention to their speed or distance. But then they flashed their high beams at me. Not once. Not to signal something, but repeatedly on, off, like they were trying to get my attention. My first thought was annoying, not scared. I figured they wanted me to speed up or move, but I was already going 5 over, and the lane next to me was empty. If they wanted to pass, they could have. The flashing continued. I felt my stomach tighten a little. Then they sped up and pulled beside me. I tried not to look but couldn't help it. It was an older sedan, dark color, maybe gray or black. The windows were rolled down even though it was cold. The driver leaned slightly toward the passenger window and pointed at my car. Then he made a motion like a tire wobbling. I couldn't hear him, but I could clearly read his lips. "Your tire." My heart started beating harder, not full panic yet, but unease growing quickly. I didn't feel anything weird with the car. No vibrating, no weird sounds, no pulling to one side. It drove normally, but he kept motioning at me, pointing, waving his hand toward the road like something was seriously wrong. Then he slowed down and tucked behind me again. Seconds later, he flashed his lights again. That was when I realized something was off. If it were really about safety, wouldn't he just pass or leave? Why stay glued to me? A mile ahead, a small gas station appeared on the side of the road. The type with a single pump island and bright white LED lights that made the place look sterile and empty. It was open. At least the lights were on and the doors didn't look locked. As I approached it, the car behind me stayed close enough that I could almost feel pressure. I didn't want to stop, but a part of me wondered if maybe something was wrong. Maybe I didn't feel it yet. Maybe ignoring this would mean blowing a tire at highway speed later. When I turned into the entrance, the other car turned with me. Not by accident, not slow or hesitant. They followed my exact path. The moment I realized that, the uneasy feeling turned into something sharper. Real fear. I pulled up near the air pump area, facing the exit. The other car didn't park normally or pull to another pump. It stopped at an angle, partly blocking the way out, but not enough to look deliberate unless you were paying attention. My hands shook as I reached for my phone. I didn't plan to call anyone specific. I just knew holding it made me feel less alone. I brought it to my ear like I was already talking to someone. The driver got out. That's when fear fully hit. He didn't walk like someone being helpful. He didn't gesture politely. He walked fast, direct, like he already expected me to get out. I stayed in my seat. I didn't lower the window. I just kept pretending to talk on the phone. He got closer, close enough that I could see his face clearly under the harsh parking lot lights. Something about his expression didn't match someone trying to warn me. His eyes were scanning my car, my hands, the door handles, almost like he was deciding something. I didn't move. I didn't even blink. I just kept the phone pressed to my ear and stared straight ahead, making it obvious I wasn't alone. Eventually, he stopped at the front of my car and waited, not waving anymore, not pointing, just waiting. It felt like forever, but it was probably less than a minute before he turned around without a single word and walked back to his car. He didn't run. He didn't rush. Just walked like everything was normal. He got in, reversed, and drove out of the parking lot without looking back. I stayed there, still pretending to talk, still breathing hard. I waited until the taillights were completely gone before I even lowered my phone. I took a few more seconds, then slowly pulled toward the exit, checking everywhere, every angle. Once I got back onto the road, I checked my mirrors repeatedly. That uneasy feeling stayed with me the rest of the drive home. When I finally parked in my driveway, I got out and checked the tires. All of them were fine. No damage, no flat, nothing wrong. Everything that happened replayed in my head, him following me, flashing the lights, pointing, getting out, waiting. There were two possibilities, and both of them stayed with me. Either he wanted to cause an accident for insurance or something worse, or he wanted me to get out so he could rob me or take the car, or do something I don't even want to imagine. Either way, nothing about it was innocent. That night changed the way I think when I drive after dark. Now, whenever someone flashes their lights or tries to signal something, I don't react. I don't slow down. I don't pull over for strangers, because sometimes the danger isn't the road, or the weather, or the car. Sometimes the danger is the person trying to make you stop. And that thought has stayed with me every night drive since. I still think about that night more than I should. It's strange how certain moments stay burned into your memory, not because they were emotional or meaningful, but because they shook something primal in you. Something that tells you, even years later, something was wrong and you were close to danger. It was around 2 a.m. when it happened. My friend was driving me home after we had been hanging out late. Nothing crazy, just talking, listening to music, trying to stretch the night a little longer before real life started again in the morning. The sky outside was dark and quiet, like most late-night drives. The streets were nearly empty, the only lights coming from old lampposts and occasional porch bulbs from houses we passed. I wasn't tired yet, but there was a calm heaviness in the air, the kind you only feel when most of the world is asleep. The radio was low, the windows were up, and the warmth inside the car made the outside world feel distant and unimportant. We were only a couple of minutes away from my neighborhood. I remember recognizing the last main intersection before the turn. My body relaxed in that automatic way it does when you know you're close to home. That's when I saw headlights appear behind us. First, it was nothing unusual. Cars passed through even late at night, and it didn't feel strange. The vehicle behind us stayed at a normal distance. Nothing weird. But when we turned into my neighborhood, the truck turned in too. That was the first moment something felt off. Not panic, not fear, just the first flicker of awareness. The truck was black, big, older model, the kind that looks like it's been driven hard and probably used for things you never ask about. No stickers, no visible details, just dark windows and harsh headlights. We kept driving normally at first, but then the truck sped up. Not gradually, not casually, fast, pulled beside us. Not fully passing, just staying parallel a few feet to the right like whoever was driving wanted us to notice them. My chest tightened. I remember staring forward, trying not to look at the truck, trying not to make eye contact even though I could feel someone watching. My friend stayed calm, or at least looked calm, but I could see his hands tighten on the wheel. His face didn't change much, but his posture did, shoulders tense, elbows locked, jaw clenched slightly. When we sped up, the truck sped up. When we slowed down, the truck slowed down. Felt intentional, not a coincidence, not a drunk driver swerving. Someone was paying attention to us. The street was empty except for the two of us. No people walking, no houses with lights on, no other cars, just silence and those two vehicles. My heartbeat got louder. I could feel it in my throat, quick and heavy. My friend finally pressed the gas harder, and our car accelerated fast. For a moment, it looked like we might get ahead. The road wasn't long, and my street wasn't far. If we could just reach it, maybe we could get away. But the truck matched our speed instantly. Still beside us, still close, like a shadow. We didn't speak. There was no time and no need. The fear was clear and shared. We didn't know what the driver wanted, but whatever it wasn't harmless. Finally, my friend slowed down. It wasn't a surrender, just a choice, a calculation. The truck forced itself forward ahead of us and then cut sharply in front, blocking the road. The stop was sudden and aggressive. Tires scraped against pavement. The engine growled. The brake lights glowed a deep red that washed over us inside the car, making everything feel darker. For a few frozen seconds, neither of us moved. Then the truck's driver door swung open. A man stepped out. He didn't stumble or hesitate. His movement was steady and deliberate. He was holding something, and for a moment I couldn't tell what it was. Then the shape became clear under the streetlight. A baseball bat, not metal, wooden, the kind that splinters when it breaks bone. He walked toward the car like someone who had already made up his mind about something. Slow, confident steps, like no matter what we did, he controlled the situation. My breathing turned shallow. The seat felt too small, the doors too thin. The world outside felt empty and dangerous, and the car felt like a trap instead of safety. The man reached the driver's side window and lifted the bat halfway, as if ready to swing. I could see him clearly now. Rough face, hair messy like he hadn't slept, eyes darting fast, scanning, suspicious. He didn't look drunk, not wasted at least. He looked alert, paranoid. I remember thinking, this could go very bad, very fast. My friend finally moved, slow and controlled. He raised both hands, palms open, showing he wasn't a threat. That simple gesture felt like the only thing keeping the bat from smashing the glass. There were no words exchanged between us inside the car, but the message was clear from how still we both sat. Don't move. Don't react wrong. Don't escalate. I couldn't hear everything the man said. My brain was running too fast, and the blood rush in my ears drowned most of it out. But I could make out his tone. Accusing, suspicious, angry. I caught only one sentence clearly, sharp and aggressive through the glass. Are you following me? That question didn't make sense. Not then, not now. He had been behind us. He had been the one tailing. He was the one who sped up, blocked the road, got out with a weapon. Yet somehow in his mind, we were the threat. My friend didn't argue, didn't explain, just kept his hands up, still and calm. That probably saved us. He didn't match the energy. He didn't fuel the paranoia. The man stared at us for a few seconds longer. A stare that felt like it lasted way too long. Then stepped back. He didn't lower the bat completely, just lowered it enough to show he wasn't going to use it. He walked back to his truck, got inside, started the engine, and drove off. Not fast, not like someone running, just calmly rolled away like nothing had happened. We sat frozen until the truck was completely out of sight. Only then did we finally breathe. My friend pulled forward slowly, checking every mirror again and again like the truck might reappear. Every house on the street looked different, less familiar, more hostile. Every shadow felt like a threat. When we finally reached my house, we didn't talk. I opened the door carefully, my legs unsteady, and stepped out. Before I closed the door, I looked at my friend. His hands were still tight on the wheel, his eyes still scanning. No laughs, no jokes, no relief, just shock. I watched his car leave and stood outside until I couldn't hear his engine anymore. The night was quiet again, too quiet. When I went inside and locked the door, the silence felt heavy, like something unseen followed me home. Even now, thinking back, I still don't know what that man's deal was. Maybe he was paranoid. Maybe he was drunk. Maybe he was violent and just looking for an excuse. Or maybe, and this thought still unsettles me the most, maybe he was angry at someone else. And for a moment, we became the stand-ins for whatever story was playing out in his head. There was no closure, no explanation, no police report. Nothing ended neatly. But one thing stayed with me. People don't become less dangerous because the threat passes. Some people don't need a reason to be violent. Sometimes their fear, anger, or confusion is enough. And sometimes you cross paths with someone who sees danger everywhere, even where there is none. That night taught me something I never forgot. The scariest thing on the road after midnight isn't the dark, or wildlife, or bad weather. It's the people, the unpredictable ones, the ones whose fear turns into aggression, the ones who convince themselves you're the threat. And sometimes the only reason you make it home is because they change their mind. That thought sticks with me every time I drive at night, and I don't think it will ever go away. I still remember that night clearly, even though many years have passed. When I think about it now, it feels unreal, like something from a crime documentary or a late-night news report. But it was real. I lived it, and the fear I felt that night has never fully left me. I was a kid back then, maybe around 10 or 11. My dad had taken me and my younger brother out to shoot the last of the fireworks we had left over from the 4th of July. It was around 11 p.m., and most people were asleep. Lights off in houses, the roads empty and quiet. We lived near Charleston, South Carolina, but where we were going was way more isolated, Wadmalaw Island. It was the kind of place where sometimes miles would go by without seeing a porch light, a car, or anything at all. I remember sitting in the back seat of my dad's old '81 Audi Fox. The seats smelled like old leather and sun-bleached fabric. The windows were slightly fogged from the cool night air. My brother sat next to me holding the bag of leftover fireworks, Roman candles, bottle rockets, a few firecrackers. I felt excited because being out late at night always felt special when you were a kid. The darkness felt huge, and the world felt quiet and strange. The road leading to the boat landing was long and empty. Trees covered both sides, tall and thick, forming a tunnel of shadows around us. With the headlights cutting through the darkness, everything looked sharper and more eerie. My dad had the window cracked a little, and the smell of marsh water drifted in. The radio was off. The only sounds were the humming engine and the tires rolling across uneven pavement. When we finally reached the boat landing, the parking lot looked empty at first, just a wide open space with a view of the dark water beyond. There were no streetlights, just a small light near the dock, barely bright enough to see by. But then, as the headlights swung across the lot, we saw it. One boat tied to the dock. It was about 20 feet long, a power boat, not a fishing boat like we usually saw around there. Then we noticed the people. There were maybe 3 or 4 men standing near the boat. All of them wore white boots, clean, matching, like they worked together. They were lifting large boxes from the boat and loading them into the back of an SUV. The SUV was backed up close to the dock, trunk wide open. Off to the side, almost tucked behind it, was a sports car. I couldn't tell exactly what kind, but it was small, low, and expensive looking. The whole scene felt wrong instantly. None of the men turned to look when we pulled up. They just kept moving, like they already knew they shouldn't be seen or interrupted. My excitement disappeared immediately. I felt a heavy pressure in my chest that I didn't understand at the time. Instinct, fear, something primal. Even as a kid, I knew we weren't supposed to be there. My dad didn't say anything. He didn't need to. He just put the car in reverse, slowly backing away, trying not to draw attention or make noise. I stared out the window without blinking, trying to look small. My brother was frozen beside me. The moment we were facing the road again, my dad accelerated. The tires hit gravel and loose dirt, and the car bumped and rattled as we got back onto the main road. At first, everything was quiet. Then I saw headlights appear behind us. They were far away at first, small, distant, barely noticeable. But they were moving fast, faster than made sense. The road was mostly straight, so I could see them getting closer without slowing down. My dad sped up. We were already going faster than normal, but the headlights kept shrinking the distance between us. My dad's jaw was clenched. His hands were tight on the steering wheel. He didn't explain anything, but we could feel the panic in the air. I turned around again. The headlights were so close now they filled the back window with harsh white light. We couldn't see the vehicle behind us, only the brightness. My brother whispered my name, but neither of us moved. The car behind us stayed glued to our bumper, speeding up when we sped up. We hit 80 miles per hour. The Audi rattled like it was going to fall apart. My stomach felt sick. The road was narrow, twisting through darkness. Nothing around us except trees and isolation. My dad must have known we couldn't outrun them. The other car was clearly faster, probably the sports car or the SUV. So instead, he made a quick choice. Before a sharp curve in the road, he turned off the headlights. The whole world went black except for moonlight and faint starlight. The sudden darkness made my heart stop for a moment. The engine stayed on, but we were basically invisible now. Then, without warning, he turned into a driveway. It was barely noticeable from the road. Just a narrow dirt path with a mailbox and a long stretch of grass and trees beyond it. He pulled deep enough in that the car wasn't visible from the road, then shut off the engine. We didn't breathe. The only sound was the pounding of my heart and the ticking metal under the hood as the engine cooled. Then the chasing car came. It flew past us so fast the ground vibrated. If I had blinked, I would have missed it. The sound faded into the distance, swallowed by the night. We stayed there for a long time, silent, low in our seats, staring ahead into the darkness. I remember the fear sitting heavy inside me, like something alive. Eventually, the headlights reappeared, coming back down the road toward the boat landing. The car drove past again, slower this time, like they were searching or checking. But they didn't stop. They kept going, disappearing in the direction of the dock. We didn't move until we were sure the road was empty. Only then did the engine start again. My dad turned the headlights on, and we drove home at a normal pace. Quiet, tense, shaken. We never talked about it after that night. Not in the car. Not the next day. Not ever. But sometimes, when I think back to it, I replay what could have happened if we had stayed longer at the dock. Or if the chasing car had noticed us turn into the driveway. Or if they had stopped and gotten out. Could have ended in violence or disappearance or something much worse. Maybe those boxes really were drugs. Maybe they thought we saw something we shouldn't. Maybe they were making sure no one left that landing alive. I don't know. All I know is we were lucky, very lucky. And now, even as an adult, I never look at isolated boat ramps or empty roads the same way. That night taught me something real and uncomfortable. Sometimes danger isn't loud or obvious. Sometimes it's quiet, organized, and happening right in front of you without warning. And sometimes the only reason you survive is because you leave before someone decides you shouldn't.